Yes, lads, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be doing the England World Cup squad. Not a prediction. This is who I would take. And what I've done is I've literally gathered as many players as I could think of that are in contention. You know, we're not just going to go and grab some random players just because they're English. We're going to go for the players that are in contention. So it's got everyone from the 35-man squad and it's got other players as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to break it down. We're going to go through a few categories that I'll get into in a second. But yeah, we're just going to pick who I would go for, 26-man squad. So without further ado, let's get in to the video. All right then, lads, here we go then. So this is the tier list. Now let's start with the categories. So we've got 1,000,000%, and these are the players. This is your Harry Kane. So not to spoil anything, but Harry Kane is going. So 1,000,000%. Then we've got going. So these are players that are not really in contention of not going. I think they should be staples of the squad, but they're not part of that main bracket. And then we've got just about. Now these are the players that it could switch for as the season goes on. If anyone has a good end to the season, they might find themselves there. We've got nearly, which sort of says what it is exactly. It's players that are playing well, but not quite on the level of England, or there's better players ahead of them. No chance is just, look, listen, you've got absolutely no chance. And of course, injured are the players that probably would go or in contention that are being ruled out due to injury, even if they're going to be back fit for the last couple of games. Not enough time for me. So do you know what? I've just actually put the injured players in. So we've got Grealish, Maddison and Levi Colwill. I think Grealish and Maddison, I don't think they really had a shot of going. I mean, Grealish, if he got a bit of form, left wing is in contention, but realistically not good enough to take with us. Maddison the same, not really been his time as of late, and injuries have held him back. Levi Colwill, however, if he hadn't have got injured, I think he'd be in the going category. And I think that he would be a very good addition to Thomas Tuchel, whatever shape he would like to play, whether it's a back four or a back three. Levi Colwill fits in on the left side. So a shame for him, but again, injured players, you can't do an ACL and come back for a couple of weeks and play in the World Cup. We don't want that as a nation anyway, I'd say. So they're the injured players. Now, in terms of goalkeepers then, I'm going to go with this. Aaron Ramsdale, for me, is in nearly. He's doing all right. He's doing okay. I just don't necessarily think that he's good enough to be in the squad. I mean, realistically as well, I'll get onto it in a minute. You'll see who I'm going to go for. Carl Rushworth, unfortunately, in no chance. I do think he's having a great season at Coventry. His name has been mentioned, but look, we're not going to be picking championship goalkeepers to take. I just don't think it's the way to go about it, especially when you've got players like Dean Henderson, who is actually going to just be in going. I think it's so important to have a good goalkeeping unit. Dean Henderson, for me, is the second best English goalkeeper that we've got. That brings me on to James Trafford, who's going to sit in just about. And the Manchester City move has absolutely killed him and his chances to go and be England #1. I always think it would be Pickford, but if he had a great season for Man City, it would be hard. You know, there would be an argument there, as there was for Ramsdale when he was Arsenal #1, but obviously it's not gone his way. And then we've got Jason Steele, who's in the 35-man squad. No chance for me. I mean, if you're not your club's #1 keeper, I mean, James Trafford, the exception, he's young, he's at Man City. If you're not the club's #1 keeper, I don't think you should be there. And Jason Steele, he shares game time. I just think it's a crazy one. And then Jordan Pickford sits in the 1,000,000%. One of England's best players by a country mile over the Southgate era. I mean, arguably, is he England's greatest ever goalkeeper? Not in terms of maybe ability elsewhere, but in terms of playing for England, it's hard to argue not. So Jordan Pickford, for me, a squad leader, going in as #1, 100%. Now, we are going to move on to left backs. Now, I am going to do this in a sense of, you know, I'm still trying to pick a 26-man squad. So they are my 3 goalkeepers, for example. So we'll have a look at what the squad looks like at the end of the video. But as for now, I just want to break it down just like this. So Lewis Hall up first. And Lewis Hall, man, this is an interesting one because I'm so torn with Lewis Hall. I mean, I'm going to go with nearly. I think he just misses out, but he is so on the cusp of becoming England's left back. And the reason why I'm going to do that now, I'm going to go with Nico O'Reilly in just about. I think Nico O'Reilly, for me, just about gets in. Left back is a position that we've not necessarily had someone nailed down. So I think there's a few left backs that are in contention. And alongside him, I'm also going to put Luke Shaw. I think Luke Shaw, for me, does go, but just about gets there. Same as O'Reilly. I feel like Lewis Hall should go. But on his day and the experience he's got, I really like Luke Shaw. I think Luke Shaw is one of the best left backs in the Premier League on his day. So for me personally, he would get the nod. And I think having someone like O'Reilly who can come on a magnitude of positions, that's why he gets in just ahead of Lewis Hall. And I think if Tuchel wants to deploy a system, O'Reilly could be your man. Luke Shaw can also slot in at centre-back. Lewis Hall maybe because he's not as, he's very one-dimensional. He's a left-back. I just think maybe that's the hindrance for him. So there we go. And I mean, Tyreek Mitchell, I put him in because he's had a few good seasons leading up to this. But again, just a player that's never going to be quite good enough for me to go. And it's going to be the same as Miles Lewis-Skelly. Now, this isn't to say that he could be that player. But as of right now, I mean, Calafiori's kept him out of the team. Hincapie's kept him out of the team. So I've got to go for Lewis-Skelly, that he's nowhere near this England squad. And earlier on in the season, I actually did a video where I said, this is my England squad. And he made it in. But the lack of game time is just, you can't ignore that, It's really, really hindered his chances to play a World Cup. But he's only young. He's only young, so credit there. Maybe he will come good. Up next, Jed Spence. Is he a right back? Is he a left back? We're now moving on to the right backs because I'm going to tell you here right now, Jed Spence is not a right back. And Jed Spence, unfortunately, hits in the nearly category. Now, I just think Jed Spence is a Wan-Bissaka Part 2. He's a great defender. We all love him because he's a great defender and he's decent going forward. But ultimately, I don't care what anyone says. You're playing in a Spurs team where no one from this Spurs team really has any credibility of making it in this team. They've been absolutely awful. So I'm not going to put him in. And I just feel as though, yes, he can play right back. Yes, he can play left back. Well, this squad has enough to have the left backs and the right backs. So Jed Spence does not make it in. Now, in terms of who is going to go into the going category, 100% Reece James, and I don't care, 100% Trent Alexander-Arnold. I'm just going straight in there with that. They are my two right backs. They're my two right backs, which means Livramento. He sits in the nearly category. Again, I mean, Lewis Hall and Livramento, Jesus Christ, Newcastle fans are probably going, you're an idiot. You know nothing. But lads, it's just, you can't not take Trent. Trent is a Real Madrid right back. Trent is one of the best right backs in the world, alongside Reece James. So why, Thomas Tuchel is not picking him, I do not understand. But more to the point, how can you leave out Trent? So Reece James gives you so much when he's fit. Trent Alexander-Arnold, the exact same thing. Trent, for me, passing the ball and crossing the ball, he's up there with the best in the world. Set pieces. It's a little bit like Trippier, in my opinion. You take Trippier, not necessarily because he's the best defender in the club, or the country, but you take him because he's just so good at so many other things. Obviously not now, we're talking back in the day. So Trent, for me, has to get the nod. Again, two players that show a bit of versatility as well and can play elsewhere. So those two are the picks, and Livramento, he's the one that is absolutely knocking on the door, and I do feel for him, but I feel like if someone's got to go amiss, it's got to be Livramento. And then alongside that, I think very similar to Miles Lewis-Skelly, it's going to be Rico Lewis, who has just been faded out at Manchester City. The hype has died down a little bit. I can see him getting a move elsewhere, which would be good for him, to be fair, to be playing more regularly. But he's not in contention, really, for me to have any chance in this England squad. Up next is Ben White. Now, he's going to sit in the no chance for me. And again, the fact that he has been called into this team ahead of Trent Alexander-Arnold is a mockery. And if I was Trent, I'd be a bit like, Thomas Tuchel doesn't rate me. I have no allegiance to come back and play for him as England manager, which I know is similar to what Ben White did. But I just take that as a bit of a blatant disrespect, to be honest. I think Ben White's not a bad player, but this is a player that when England needed him and he was on form playing games, he said no. So I'm sorry, but you don't just get to pick and choose when you want to represent your country. His whole attitude stinks, in my opinion. He's one of those nonchalant, I don't care about football, I don't watch football, I don't like football. All right then, mate, enjoy your summer because you're not going to the World Cup. And if that's what he wants to do and he's actually happy to be a part of this England squad, well, tough luck. You had your chance, you didn't take it. This is international football. It is ruthless. And I'm sorry, I just wouldn't take him. Moving on now then to the centre-backs. And up first is John Stones. And it's difficult. So realistically, what? You're going to take 4 centre-backs. I should probably start this and say it's quite easy. 3 keepers, 2 right-backs, 2 left-backs. That takes us to, quick maths, 4, add 3, 7. We've got 7 players. I don't know why I couldn't just count. We've got 7 players in the squad already, which means we then have 19 players left to go. 4 centre-backs. So do I just start with John Stones and say that he is on the... Jeez. I would say nearly. I think John Stones' experience really would be the reason that he does get the call up. But I just think realistically, John Stones shouldn't be going. We've got better players, not better players. We've got players that are playing more regularly, more in form, that can step in and do the job. So let's get to them. So first and foremost, Mark Gahey, 1,000,000% for me. 1,000,000%. Such a good centre-back. The move to Manchester City will only make him better. I'm also going to put Ezri Konsa in the going category. I don't think it's just about, he's justified that he is one of the best centre-backs in the Premier League year on year on year. He gets better and better and better under Unai Emery as well, another great coach. So those two are probably going to be my starting pair, if I'm going to be honest. Now, alongside them, Harry Maguire, just about. For me personally, Harry Maguire, with all the experience he's got, he's very good for England. I would take him, especially as he's managed to find a bit of form under Michael Carrick at Manchester United. So I would go ahead and take Harry Maguire. I just think it makes no sense to not take him. You know, if you're not going to take John Stones, you've got to take Maguire, and I think Maguire deserves it over Stones. So that's why I'd do that. Now, Chalobah is going to just sit in the nearly category. I'm a big Chalobah fan. Some Chelsea fans don't rate him too much, but I think there is a lot to like about Chalobah. He's very calm on the ball. I think he does the basics very well. And there might be a world where he does make it into the squad. So let's just see. As for Tomori, I'm going to go with no chance. And I just don't necessarily think... I mean, if there was a category that was nearly and no chance, but I'm going to go for no chance. I don't think he goes to the World Cup, in my opinion. I think he's been very solid overseas. I don't know. I think the Premier League holds such a weight for these players where if you do go abroad, you've got to be so good. And is Trent maybe an example of that where he hasn't been picked from Thomas Tuchel? I think so. In terms of Tomori, I do think there are, again, a couple of players that are a little bit ahead of him. So we'll have to see in that regard there. Now, up next is Jarrell Quansah. I would have him in nearly as well. Again, another player doing well at Bayer Leverkusen. Tuchel does like him, and I feel as though he would offer a lot of versatility, but I'm just not convinced that he's the guy to take going forward. I mean, maybe, I don't know. It's a tough one with Jarrell Quansah because he was all right at Liverpool, and at Bayer Leverkusen, I can't act like I've watched him play tons and tons and tons, whereas at Liverpool, I saw him, and what I saw, I liked bits of, but not all of. So he's a strange one. I mean, it's going to actually be the exact same with Jared Bramthwaite, by the way. A player who has had a few injuries here and there, but he's in the nearly category. I mean, I don't... In fact, no, I think it's only fair to put him in no chance. I think realistically, he hasn't had a good enough season in terms of injuries and staying fit to justify going. And I don't think Thomas Tuchel's going to want to take him on the form that he's been on. Now, that does leave one player in the centre-back position, and that is going to be Dan Burn, stood next to Tuchel. And I would take Dan Burn. And the reason I would take him is because then you've got a real mix. You've got Konsa and Gahey, who are two very similar types of defenders. You've got Maguire and Burn, and that gives you the versatility of height and power. So I would go with Dan Burn, and I feel as though when he plays, he also gives you that attacking outlet as well. If you need to shore things up, you can bring him on, but also going up for corners, etc. I like Dan Burn. I think John Stones and Dan Burn, that's the toss-up for me. Chalobah and Jarrell Quansah maybe just slightly behind. But I would go with Dan Burn. I think he's a player that rises to the big occasion as well. And I think that's very important in a World Cup. And yeah, Dan Burn has proven it on the Champions League stage, Premier League stage, deserves to go in my opinion. And I'm going to use his experience to do what we can. And now moving on then to centre midfielders. Up first, it is Jobe Bellingham. Now, I think he goes in no chance. I think there's just a world where he's just not anywhere near as good as his brother. And I think maybe at some point could he force his way in, but I think it's almost a bit of an insult to the lads that are ahead of him to insinuate that he's nearly there or there's a chance that he could go. I just do not see it with him. I watched him at Sunderland quite a lot and he was good in at some things, but not great. Do you know what I mean? He just wasn't really great at anything. He was just good at a lot of things, which is a solid trait, but we're talking about England here. This should be the best of the best we've got to offer, and Joe Bellingham is not that. Up next, then, we've got Archie Gray, obviously playing for Tottenham. Archie Gray is a difficult one because I actually think that he could justifiably go in nearly. And the reason why I'd have him in nearly is because even though it's not been amazing this season, Archie Gray is certainly one for the future. We should be looking at players like Archie Gray that are going to come in, maybe not this World Cup, but the next Euros, the World Cup after that, and be a big part of it. So Archie Gray for me could justify it in a sense of, it's difficult because when are you ever going to have a position that, you know, is just an extra position really that a player can come in? It just doesn't really exist. But Archie Gray's nearly there. He really is. Next Euros, I'm expecting him to have a very big role. Hayden Hackney, similar to what I said about Kyle Rushworth, we're talking about players in the Championship here. And for me personally, Hayden Hackney, he has a chance of doing like a later on in his career England sprout. But at this current moment, playing at Middlesbrough doesn't justify it. Now, Curtis Jones, I'm going to whack him in nearly because, again, I wouldn't actually take him. I think there's a lot about his game that is not on the level of the club that he plays for. And I feel as though a move is in the pipeline. It has to be, where he goes and downgrades to a smaller club than Liverpool, where expectations aren't as big. He can play every week and maybe then he can force his way in. But from what I see about him, I don't really think he's England level, if I'm going to be honest. And my opinion on him has changed. I was a big fan. I'm now seeing him in a different light. Up next then is Jack Hinchelwood of Brighton. Another player who could eventually get there. He's only young. I wanted to include him because I wanted to just say he's a player that goes under the radar quite a lot, I'd say, from a lot of people in terms of their, you know, good, young, promising English players. He has certainly got a future where he could break into this international team. It's just not right now, and it shouldn't be right now. And anyone that is petitioning it, and it's obviously going to be Brighton fans, lads, just stop, because he's not quite there yet. Now, moving on to Dewsbury Hall. Now, plays for Everton, of course, as does the man next to him, James Garner. And the crazy thing is I'm so torn between these two. One of them is going in my squad. I'm going to go for James Garner. And James Garner just gets the nod for me over Dewsbury Hall. So, actually, I put him in the wrong category, haven't I? Sorry. Oh, no. I've lost him. I've lost Dewsbury Hall. There he is. He's in the injured category. Missed that. Right. Into the nearly category for Dewsbury Hall. Now, James Garner and Dewsbury Hall, different types of players, 100%. I just think Dewsbury Hall is in a position where there are players ahead of him. And that's what's going to be letting him down. James Garner in the 6, in that 6-8 region, that for me is a position that we're lacking on more than the 10s, the 8-10 role. So James Garner gets the nod over Dewsbury Hall, but both of those two having a superb season. Moving on to the next player, and it's Kobbie Mainoo. No chance for me. I wouldn't take him this time. I think there's been a lot of mismanagement of Kobbie Mainoo, and I do think that on his day, he's going to become one of England's big players in the future. I really, really do. But I just don't think this is the season. I mean, he's been let down, hasn't he? I said at the start of the season, I wanted him to go out on loan because it's a World Cup year, and a Kobbie Mainoo on form helps England. And yes, he's found a bit of form under Carrick, but I don't think it's enough to justify him going to the World Cup. So I wouldn't take him. I really wouldn't. Now, up next is Alex Scott of Bournemouth. Now, I tell you what, we talk about James Garner, Dewsbury Hall. Alex Scott is completely in that conversation for me because he is a player. Those three are arguably playing for this spot here. And again, I've only gone for James Garner to just give us that more versatility in terms of being able to go backwards more. Alex Scott, similar to Dewsbury Hall, in that 8 position, maybe moving up towards a 10. Really, really good players, but there's just better players ahead of them. And it's exactly the same with Alex Scott. It really is. The man that I'm going to go for next, Adam Wharton, I really like. Now, I was a bit of an Adam Wharton hater. I thought, guys, what is this hype about? I was more Kobbie Mainoo. I really thought, Adam Wharton, he's all right, isn't he? And then I watched him play, and I really watched him play. I decided to say, right, let me see what all the hype's about. My word, this lad is class. This lad it doesn't play like an English player. He does not play like an English player. And until you actually sit and physically watch him, and you're not even watching the game sometimes, you're just watching his positioning, movement, the way he does things, he has to be in this squad. And I do feel as though that he'll have a good World Cup, and I think he'll leave, and I think he will move on from Palace because he is that good. He can go right to the top. If Rodri leaves Manchester City, go and get Adam Wharton. Plain and simple. Go and get him. So he gets in the squad. Next up, Jordan Henderson. What the hell is going on, man? Why does Thomas Tuchel keep picking him? I do not understand it in the slightest. Jordan Henderson, thank you for everything that you've done, but leave. Like, just go now. It's like, it'd be like Kyle Walker trying to steal. It's like, lads, we've got better players now. We've moved on. That you had your time. You've had your moments. And the argument of, oh, I'll take him for his experience. Get him on the coaching staff then. Get him on the coaching staff. Why is he taking up a slot? I just think Jordan Henderson, on his day, Liverpool captain, Champions League winner, Premier League winner, yes, take him. That is not the Jordan Henderson that is still playing today. So it's a straightforward, absolutely no chance Jordan Henderson should be going. Now, moving on from that, we've got Elliot Anderson, who, yeah, do you know what? He is just about, I would say at the start of the season, 100% going. And now I've watched too many Nottingham Forest games where he just does not perform on the level that everyone says he is. And that is a shame because I was hoping he was going to have a big form season. But it's weird though, because some people say, oh, Elliot Anderson's so good. But every time I watch, I don't see it. I just don't quite see it. But I do feel as though he should be going, but not, the hype of him is not where I see it. So, but I do know he's a good player and I know he'll do well for England. Now, up next, Declan Rice, 1,000,000%. 1,000,000% Declan Rice goes. He's one of the key players. And I mean, look at the three we've got in there. We're not just giving out 1,000,000%. They are three unbelievably key players. Declan Rice is fully in that category. Now, moving on to Conor Gallagher, absolutely no chance. He should be nowhere near the squad. I mean, he's at Spurs, got the move from Atletico, wasn't playing at Atletico, went to Spurs. It's just not gone well at all. He's playing on the right wing. We're talking about centre midfielders. Simple as this, he should not be anywhere near it. So we've currently got a 15-man squad, meaning that if that's all I'm taking, defenders and centre midfielders wise, that we've got 11 positions available for the number 10, the left wing, right wing, and striker. So if you said that you'd have 2 strikers, makes that 9, 4 wingers in total, makes that 5. 3 number 10s, versatility, obviously, because people can play elsewhere. That leaves me with 2 other positions. So I think that's how I've got to do it. So this is going to be difficult. Right. Morgan Rogers. He, for me, is in just about. And crazy, I'm a Villa fan. But the players he's got in front of him, I think he is just about. I really do. I like Morgan Rogers a lot. And he plays well for England. But in terms of him in a Villa shirt, he's had some fantastic moments. But there are games he does go missing. And if he's going to be a number 10 for us, I think that's difficult. But he obviously can play off the left as well. So he does give that versatility. So I would definitely take him, but he is on the just about. Now, Morgan Gibbs-White just misses out. I think he's had a very difficult season at Forest. Everyone has. Elliot Anderson and him haven't been able to shine as much as they'd like to. That broken down move to Spurs, if that would have happened, I mean, who knows, because Spurs have been absolutely awful as well. But he's just one of those players that won't get in. I just can't see it happening because of who's in front of him. And it's a shame because there is a seriously talented player there. And here's an example of one of the players in front of him. It is Jude Bellingham. Not 1,000,000%. Not 1,000,000%. Definitely one of our better players. And it's not because he's a blue nose, but definitely one of our better players. But ultimately, at the same time, it's hard to put it into words exactly what I feel about Jude Bellingham as a player. I think he's very good and he's clutch and he takes it by the reins and he's one of our main men. But at the same time, if you ask me to pick between Jude Bellingham and let's say Declan Rice, only one of them can be in your team. It's Declan Rice every day of the week. Jude Bellingham is a star, but the hype is a lot higher than it should be. And he is just one of our good to better players. That's all he is. He's not one of the main men in the team, even though the media portrays it that he is, if that makes sense. So there we go. Now, Cole Palmer. This is an intriguing one that I'm going to come back to because I need to just fully work this out myself because it's tough. So let's just do tens and wingers in the same category because they all can play the role. So one player that is 100% going is Bukayo Saka, a player that's done great things for England, but at the same time isn't in that 1,000,000% club, same as Jude Bellingham. In fact, I'd say more so than Bellingham because Saka does go missing. Look at his goal scoring record. He doesn't score that many goals. He is great on his day, but again, he's not in that main category. I mean, the difference between this and this, the sort of 1,000,000% to go in my opinion, is just you've got to be the main man. Like this team, like those three players there are the first three names on the team sheet. It is how I see it anyway. So Saka, 100% going though. Now, looking at what else we've got, I think you've got to look at Phil Foden. I don't know why I'm starting with Phil Foden. I think that you would maybe say Eze is just about. Eze's versatility of playing off the left, in the middle. Eze's also clutch in the big moments. So I think Eze definitely gets the shout for me to get into the squad. And then I'm looking at Phil Foden and I don't know if Phil Foden goes for me or not. I really don't. I think I'm tired of hearing the narrative of Phil Foden's England's best technical player. Phil, like, show us more, you know? We haven't seen it for so many tournaments now. And in a season where you're struggling for game time with injuries or without them, why would I now deem it that you're now ready? This is your time, you know? This is your time to... I just don't see it like that. So I think I'm gonna leave Phil Foden in the nearly category. And if he had a very good spell towards the end of the season, he was getting in that team, maybe you'd have a change of heart if he managed to drag City to a title. But as things stand right now, I don't think Phil Foden goes for me. I really, really don't. And Rio Nugamoa has to sit in no chance. The same as Max Dowman. And I just think it's a little bit too early. Again, it's one of those Archie Gray situations where if you were able to just give like a young player spot and he's just there for the experience and he might come on, you never know if we're winning like 5-0 in the group stage. But I just don't think you can justify not having certain players there. They've had a great start to life and a career in football, and I wish them all the best. And I'm very happy that they're both English and they're both going to do big things, but not now. The Euros, hey, look, that's a different ballgame, but I'm not going to get too sucked into the hype on that one. Now, Marcus Rashford, where do I see Marcus Rashford? Is he a winger? Is he a striker? I think he's a winger, and I would take him. And he obviously sits in just about. He really does. So that means then we've got Saka, and we've got no other right winger. We've got Bellingham, we've got Rodgers, we've got Eze, who's like the hybrid, and we've got Rashford out on the left. So really, I think you want another left winger and another right winger, is the way I'm seeing this. And then you obviously want to look at the forward. So with that being said, oh man, so Anthony Gordon, just about for me. Anthony Gordon is one of those players where he should be in the squad. I like him a lot. I think he's got a lot of good characteristics as a winger. It's the consistency of the goal scoring that maybe makes me question it. But I think that he probably does make it. I mean, Rashford can play up front. Eze can play off the left. Rodgers can play off the left. Gordon to bring on. It's complete sheer pace. It's very difficult to defend against. He's a live wire. So I think that's why I would go for him. I do think that is why I would go for him. Now, Cole Palmer, I really don't know. I'm actually torn between two. So Mason Greenwood, I put him in here because I think it's worth talking about. He's a player that's managed to score a lot of goals, got a lot of assists. He sits in no chance though. And I think the best thing for him to do is go and declare for, I think it's Jamaica is the other option, if he even wants to do international football, because ultimately, he's not a good guy. We've all seen the videos. We all know what the crack is. You can't ignore his league form. He's playing very well. Other nations would have had him back in 100%. That's why I've included him in the list. To just sort of say that England I don't think we should pick him. I think too much has gone on now. I don't think it's a good look for him to go. Just in terms of what he's done and the impact, I just don't think it's something we should even consider. And I don't think Thomas Tuchel is. And at the same time as well, I feel as though the damage that will cause in terms of then the media spotlight on this squad, where you just want the squad to be as mellow as possible, everyone going in on the same mindset, and you wouldn't want anyone to be, thinking, oh, I don't like him, anything like this. Justifiably so, don't like him. But yeah, I just think it was worth talking about. He's playing very well in France. And yeah, he's just not going to play for England again, in my opinion. May as well go for Jamaica now, if that's the route he wants to go. Or just retire from international football. His choice, but he wouldn't make it in my England squad. I don't think he'd make it in anyone's England squad, to be quite honest. But yeah, worth a talking point though. Always worth a talking point. So moving on from that then, Harvey Barnes, he sits in no chance. Got the call up, doing well at Newcastle, but he's not even the main man at Newcastle, is he? I mean, Harvey Barnes comes on for Anthony Gordon. So there you go. That answers that one there. So basically, Jared Bowen is in nearly, but hasn't had a great season. And I really like Jared Bowen, but again, I don't think he justifies going to the World Cup when we've got players ahead of him. So as you can see, there's one spot left available, and that spot is for either Cole Palmer or Noddy Madueke. And this is going to be controversial, but I'm going to go for Madueke. So Cole Palmer, for me, sits in nearly. Now, Cole Palmer is a fantastic, fantastic player. And maybe this is a mistake because he would go on and do some big things for England, and with different players around him, a different style of play, would he do better? As far as I'm concerned, his league form has not been good enough. He has been poor this season for his own standards. And so with that in mind, I've got to look at someone like Madueke, who has had some time out, in all fairness to him. But I think Madueke is a very good player, a player that gets completely overlooked. And he's come from Chelsea to Arsenal. He's got Saka ahead of him, who, as we've identified, Saka is one of the best players in this England squad. I think Madueke absolutely shines, and I really, really like him as a player, what he adds to a team, his attacking intent. And if you look at the subs, that they could be, maybe Rashford, Gordon, Madueke, whoever the team does line up, I think that is really, really solid. So Cole Palmer, for me, not making it into my squad. But now, let's move on to the strikers. Then. So, this is first and foremost, Harry Kane, 1,000,000%. Now, even though I will say, Harry Kane, for me, and England and how he plays, is never really that good. Harry Kane has never dragged us through a national team competition ever. Now, the difference here is he's obviously been to Bayern, and he is playing out of his skin. I'm hoping playing at the top level, expectations are always there. When you play for Tottenham, there are no expectations going into games. You want to win and you hope to win, but it's not on the same level as playing for a Manchester City, United back in the days, maybe Arsenal now, Liverpool, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich. That level is you are supposed to win. I watched the overlap with Gareth Bale recently, and he said exactly that. They know they have to win every single game. Whether you like it or not, that mentality is not at Spurs. I mean, we know it's not. Look at this season, but it's never been at Spurs. It never has been at Spurs. So now he has that mentality when it comes to England, when the weight is on him, he's our captain, he knows he has to win. And hopefully that sort of translates into his play. And I hope that Thomas Tuchel can get the best out of him as well. We have to remember that new manager here in Tuchel. So Harry Kane definitely goes. The striker that I'm going to go with him, is it Ivan Toney? I think no chance. I think if you go to Saudi, you have to accept that doing so means you're not going to play for England. Because you just can't. You can't go to Saudi and expect to still play. The level, you've dropped down massively. It would be like someone going for a big money move in the Championship. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense how you can then see, oh, but I've scored 40 goals in the Championship. Yeah, it doesn't matter. That's not the highest level you can play at. You don't make it in my squad. Now, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He's going to sit in the nearly category for me. He really is going to sit in the nearly category because I just think he's a big handful. Do you know what? I'm so torn now. I'm so torn because Dominic Calvert-Lewin. God, I've done it. Dominic Calvert-Lewin gets the nod from me. Just about. He is maybe what this category is made for. Just about. Because, I mean, look, let's just do it like this. No chance for Liam Delap. Solanke, no chance for me. I think he's been injured for a large part of the season. He's not exactly firing. He's not a bad player on his day, but I wouldn't take him. I think that Ollie Watkins, again, no chance. Ollie Watkins, to me, I love Ollie Watkins, but I've watched him so much this season. Take it from me. Anyone who's out here saying, I'd take Ollie Watkins. Look, his movement is great. He looks as though he's still able to find those runs in the channels. His actual technical ability, apparently he's got a knee issue that's never really been dealt with, and that's why we are in the situation that we're in. And I just think that Ollie Watkins, you need to be firing if you go into the World Cup. And out of those two, going back to Calvert-Lewin, out of those two, Ollie Watkins and Calvert-Lewin hands down has to go based off this season's form. He just does. Ollie Watkins is not the same player. I hope he has the summer off, can recover, and can come back and be one of our main men. Obviously, you could maybe say Tammy Abraham should have been in this list as well, but I just don't feel as though that was even worth it. And if there are other players that I might have missed, I mean, there's so many players you can choose from. I think Jacob Ramsey at Newcastle, another one. No chance. Just no chance. It is pointless to have them in. Now, just to quickly touch on the last player we spoke about, it is, of course, Danny Welbeck. He's nearly there. He's nearly there. You could argue that you'd maybe do this and not take them both, obviously, but like they're both on that level. And Danny Welbeck should not be getting slept on. Not at all. Because I do really like Danny Welbeck, and I think he just scores goals. He's a player that you want to have at times like this in a World Cup. So, but there we go. Look, guys, this is the view I've gone for. Let me now break it down into the actual squad. So then I've broken it down into positions now. So we've obviously got the 3 goalkeepers. We've got 2 left backs, 4 centre backs, 2 right backs. We've got the 4 centre midfielders. And then we've got sort of like 3 10s, 2 left wingers, 2 strikers and 2 right wingers. So we've got 2 positions left to give out. Now, being completely honest, I think... Obviously, I said I wouldn't pick Cole Palmer in terms of the squad and how I was breaking it down. With an extra position available, I think you're mad not to take Cole Palmer. I think you're mad not to take him if that extra position is there. So, yeah, maybe ignore what I said about not taking him, because now looking at it, I would take him. Now, the only other position I think you're looking at, I don't think you take Danny Welbeck, and I don't think you take Alex Scott. So what you're left with now is 3 defenders for that final spot. Now, do you go with a left back, a right back, or a centre back? That is the question. Now, Luke Shaw, able to drift in and play centre back. In terms of the right backs, no one's really able to do that. Konza can play right back if needed. Dan Burn can play left back if needed. So we do have good versatility. So versatility shouldn't really come into it. So with that being said, I would take Livramento. And I think just over Lewis Hall and Chalobah. The reason being is that we've got Luke Shaw that can play centre-back. I think Trent and Reece James can play different roles in terms of centre mid. For example, Trent might be down here for Thomas Tuchel. Same with Reece James. But ultimately, I think the versatility of those two means you take Livramento as your traditional right back. I know it's the same at left back really with Nico O'Reilly. Oh, it's so tough. It's so tough. Because I could now make that argument for Lewis Hall, but I'm going to go with Tino Livramento. And I think Livramento is just that bit better than Lewis Hall. And I think he's slightly ahead. So this is my England squad. The 26-man squad I would take. Pickford, Henderson, Trafford, Luke Shaw, O'Reilly, Konza, Maguire, Gahey, Dan Burn, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Reece James, Tino Livramento, Declan Rice, Adam Wharton, Elliot Anderson, James Garner, Jude Bellingham, Morgan Rogers, Eberechi Eze, Anthony Gordon, Marcus Rashford, Harry Kane, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Bukayo Saka, Noni Madueke, and Cole Palmer. So, guys, that is the end of the video. Let me know in the comments who you would pick, who you'd take instead. Have I got it right? Have I got it wrong? Let me know in the comments. And of course, if you guys are enjoying the content, I've got plenty more content like this to come. We've got some club rivalry videos coming up where, you know, it's going to be a tier list, club rivalries, derbies, where I rank them. That's coming up soon, but we've got loads more stuff coming as we get to the end of the season and all throughout the summer as well, covering the World Cup and all sorts of other things like pre-season, which is probably one of my favorite times. The end of the season into pre-season, I friggin' love that time. So if you are enjoying the content, guys, please do stick around, hit a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel. But as always, lads, I will catch you on the next one.